Welcome to the Relax into Love podcast, the place for spiritual, ambitious women to awaken to divine connection within themselves and their partner and manifest their most desired relationship with joy and ease. I'm Teal Elizabeth, your host, a spiritual love and relationship coach trained in the principles of feminine energy, NLP, and deep subconscious reprogramming. And through this podcast, it is my desire to inspire you on all things dating, relationships, and self-love. Now, on to the show. Hey, ladies, welcome back. I want to talk today and just jump right straight into it about the number one thing that may be costing you your own love life success. And this is something that is a very, very common theme that I see from many, many women that I talk to. And I feel like it's important to address it. And this is the concept of seeking external validation, specifically from men, to be able to feel complete. And I speak to this because I too have experienced this. I've been there in that place. And I also recognize how detrimental it is to lasting love and a healthy foundation for us to actually have a sustainable relationship for the long term. Okay. So let's really talk about this. Seeking and needing validation from men. Now, many of you, back up just for a second, are probably like, oh, that's not me, right? Right? What does it actually look like when you're seeking validation from men? Well, first off, you know that you're doing it because of the way that you feel. And as of with lots of things that I share, it always comes back down to how you're feeling. So we know that we are externally seeking for something when we are not feeling good within ourselves. And that can really come through in feeling anxious, feeling like our mind chatter is just running over rampant, right? Second guessing ourselves, feeling overwhelmed, feeling like we're never going to get to what we want, even though we deeply, deeply crave it and want it. It looks like doing too much and over functioning, right? As in starting to be the one initiating conversations with men or being on dating apps, just swiping and swiping and swiping, hoping to get attention from men. It really looks like seeking attention from men, right? And there's a whole myriad of reasons of why it is that we as women feel that we need to seek that validation and attention from men, usually stemming from our own relationships with, other people in our life, specifically our parents and our fathers, and that role model as a father. But when we are in that place of really trying to get validation and acceptance from someone outside of ourselves, we are always setting ourselves up for failure. Always. Like, we can't help it. We are never, ever going to be able to have what we want if we're putting the power into somebody else's hands, right? And that's what essentially we're doing when we are in that place of putting ourselves out there and hoping to get the like, to get the comment, to get the call, right? To get the man to do things that make us feel good. It really, really jeopardizes our own ability to feel good with or without them. And I'm gonna think about this. I want to approach this. I want you to think about this as like a drug, right? And I know that's a little bit harsh, but it's really important for you to recognize this. It's the same kind of addiction patterns that we can get into. When we have some sort of void or lack within ourselves, we usually look to something else to give us that reprieve, that relief, right? Maybe it's alcohol, maybe it's marijuana, maybe it's drugs. And when we have that drink, right, or we smoke, we get that temporary feeling of just like, okay, everything's going to be okay. I'm fine. All is good. And it's the same kind of feeling when we get that attention, that dopamine hit from a man's attention and from his reaching out or his own validation for you of being someone attractive and desirable, right? But here's why that doesn't work, is that it creates a dependency on his attention, right? Just as it can easily fall into a pattern of getting into that habit of having a glass of wine every night with dinner because it feels good, we can feel and have that same experience happen for ourselves with the attention of men, especially when we are in these early phases of dating where we are very much wanting to know and be reminded that we're on the right path here and that you guys feel the same way about each other, right? It's really, really in those moments where we seek and we hold out for those little glimmers of, okay, he texted me back. That means that this, right? That must mean that this. When really, if we are holding out for those moments of validation, we are truly detrimenting our own value and our own worth. And truly, this kind of dating strategy, it can really undermine your entire sense of self and the way that men look at you. And the most important thing here is that lots of times we don't even realize we're doing it, right? We may be thinking we're totally cool as a cucumber and confident and just independent, right? And I can take care of myself, I'm fine. But inside there's all these like, this anxiousness, right? This nervousness, this feeling of something doesn't feel right, something doesn't feel good. I need something so that I can relax. That energy, that essence, men can feel. They can pick up on it. It's like these little subconscious energy vortexes that are just being sent outward to them, and they can feel it. They may not be able to sense it and tell you what it is exactly, but there's something within it that just makes them go, ugh, I don't know, right? And that is coming from your own place of lack within yourself. And the only way to reverse this and completely turn it around is to put that attention and that focus back on yourself, to figure out, why is there a void? Why is there this sense of lack? Why do I feel the need to be reaching out to get that validation, right? Where is that stemming from? But until we really do that deeper work and reflection on ourselves, we are going to keep putting ourselves, and you are going to keep putting yourself into this pattern of leaning forward, reaching out, hoping for things to change, hoping for things to be different, only to have the man in front of you feel on the surface that you're cool, but underneath like something's weird, and have him pull away, right? And I call this whole kind of pattern, I call it the hook and fizzle. And the hook and fizzle is very, very common for many of us. And for over 8 years, I found myself in the hook and fizzle, and I couldn't figure out why men kept fizzling away. And then I had this light bulb moment of, oh my gosh, there's a disconnect. There's a disconnect in how I'm showing up and how I'm actually feeling inside. And until we get those things in alignment, you're never going to be able to really set the tone for a healthy relationship to bloom, because you're always going to be looking to somebody else to make you happy. And that's why I want to double down on this too, this idea of making sure that we're not looking outside of ourselves to be happy and to be content and to be complete. Because when we do that, when we put our happiness in the hands of a man, or in the hands of anyone else for that matter, we are essentially giving away our power. And when we give away our power, that is when we know that we are completely powerless. And when we're powerless, that's when the mind kicks in. And that's when the mind says, okay, it's time for me to get into gear here. It's time for me to feel back in control, because I do not feel in control right now, right? And when the mind kicks in, that's when the anxiety kicks in. And we all know the feeling when anxiety kicks in. It feels like everything is out of control and there's no sense of peace or contentment or anything that we can do to feel relieved, except feeling like we have a plan in place, right? And when we get into wanting to plan out things in our relationships, that's when we get into that overfunctioning and it just blows up everything in the relationship, right? So, my dear, if this is you, if you're feeling any of these common themes, I just want to reassure you that, one, this is completely normal. It's okay if you've had this experience. Like I said, we all go through these moments. But I also want you to just take a deeper look to recognize what's really going on underneath the surface here. If you're feeling that you are seeking attention, that you are seeking validation, that you're needing something from someone, this is a huge indicator for you to just take a pause, to take a step back, and to start to go deeper within yourself and ask yourself those deeper questions about where this may be coming from. And this is something that I have so many resources on that I'm going to be sharing a lot more about in future videos and future trainings. But for right now, I just want to kind of paint this picture for you and help you to recognize if this is where you're falling. So if this is where you're falling, I'd love for you to just write a comment down below, just acknowledge and recognize, yes, okay, I feel this, yes, I've been there, because that's the first place of this, right, is the awareness and recognizing, oh gosh, maybe there are some parts within myself that are not completely whole. Maybe there are some things from my past that have not been fully resolved yet that need to be resolved so that I can move forward in a way that is whole and complete. right? I think about it as like baking a cake. So imagine that you want to go and bake a cake and you are getting all the ingredients and all the recipes and following the recipe, but no, scratch that. You don't even have a recipe. You don't have any recipe. You know you want to bake a cake. You know you want it to be the best darn cake that you've ever made before, right? Because it's for your best friend and she loves cakes or whatever it is, right? And so you're like, okay, I've never actually made a cake before. I have no recipe for a cake, but I know generally, I think the ingredients that go into a cake, right? So you start kind of throwing a bunch of ingredients into the bowl, flour and eggs and water and sugar, right? And you start mixing it up and you put it in the oven and it just becomes this complete flat pancake. It's just gross. It does not taste good. It just looks like a piece of crap, right? I want you to think about that as the way that you've been approaching relationships, right? Just throwing a bunch of things into the mix, just swiping, going after there, trying to talk to men, trying to play in all these worlds and not having it go anywhere, just having it be flat as a pancake. So then you go back into the kitchen and you're like, okay, you know what? All it is that I need, I just need more of this. I just need more of that. I just need more of this. And you keep adding to things and keep trying things and you just end up with this just even worse looking cake, right? This is really the problem that most of us find ourselves in. We're making these cakes with no recipe, with no sense of purpose, with no understanding of what it takes to really truly have a whole and complete cake. But instead of taking a step back to learn how to actually create a cake, we just keep thinking we need more of something else. Just need something else. You just need some more of something else. And from that place, you're never going to be able to create the beautiful, delicious, aesthetically pleasing looking cake that you know in your heart you're capable of making. Okay, so I know that's kind of a silly analogy, but it's something that I think is really important for us to recognize and for you to recognize that there may be some missing ingredients in your cake. And the answer is not to just throw more men into the picture, okay? Not to throw more attention and validation for momentary hits of pleasure into the equation. It's about taking that step back and recognizing maybe there's more that I need to learn. Maybe there's a recipe or a framework that I have yet to learn and understand that can actually make this whole cake baking process a whole lot easier. And that's something that I have for you. So don't worry, you're not alone in this. Like, I've got that for you. I'm going to be sharing all about that. I just want to let you know that it's time to reevaluate your recipe, babe. It's time to reevaluate your recipe and take a step back and just recognize, okay, I need to just revamp this whole thing. So I just wanted to, just drop on here to drop that little bit. And yeah, please comment below if this resonates for you. And don't worry, babe, I've got a lot more where this is coming from, coming to you very shortly. So hope you're having a beautiful day and we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for tuning in to another amazing episode of the Relax Into Love podcast. If you are loving what you're hearing, please, I would love for you to write me a heartfelt review. It means so much for the success of this podcast. And honestly, I love hearing what really hits home for your soul. And the feedback, really, I read every piece of it. So definitely pop me a love note and share this with a friend. Share this with someone who you know could really use this message today. And let's keep spreading the love. Until next time.